Whether you are letting your property for the first time or you are an experienced landlord, maybe renting your property for the 5th or the 10th time, there will always be things that you can learn in the process of improving on how you let your properties. So on this video, I'm going to be sharing the top tips that you can use in becoming an even better and a professional landlord. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, if you're new here, my name is Abbas Pradhan. I'm a property investor and I'm an owner of an estate agency called 10x Rising. On this channel, I share with you the insight of what we go through on a day-to-day basis that may help you on your property journey. So if you enjoy the content and it's valuable to you, please smash the like button, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you do not miss the next videos. So if you're new to the property market and you're a new landlord, the first thing you need to do is your research. You need to establish what kind of a landlord are you going to be. Are you going to be buying buy-to-let properties, or are you going to be buying HMO properties? Are you going to be buying rundown properties to then refurbish and then flip them, or are you going to be refinancing them as your exit strategy? So understand that as your fundamental background, like what kind of properties are you going to be jumping in? Once you know that, you also want to understand the lettings market. You want to understand how the whole system works. When do you put tenants in? How long of a contract can you make? What kind of contract do you use with them? What kind of deposit can you take? What's the maximum allowance that you can use as the deposit? How do you charge them on their deposits? Are you allowed to bill them regularly as whenever there is a breakage or damage in the property? What kind of research do you do before you hand over the keys to the property to your tenant? You want to understand who is the tenant? How is he going to pay you? You want to know everything about them. You want to understand exactly the regulations and the compliance involved in the lettings market. You want to understand that as well. Once you understand how you're going to be renting your properties, whether you're renting them out yourself and you are the sole property manager, or if you're going to be giving this contract over to someone else to manage it for you, you need to understand all of that. So that's the second most important thing. Then the third thing is understanding your metrics. So you're going to need to have a spreadsheet, especially if you're a landlord. You cannot make decisions on buying your property based on emotions. You've heard that before, and I'm going to repeat it again. It's always going to have to be by your calculations. What kind of return on investments are you going to have on them? If it's 2% cash and cash, really, is that the best you could find for yourself? So you want to have the metrics established and your minimum requirement you're going to use for finding yourself good deals. So you want to understand your metrics as well. The decisions you make based on the knowledge you have will take you so much further compared to the decisions you make based on your emotions. So always learn more in the property market, understand have that curiosity and optimism. That curiosity is going to take you to better places and will help you progress further as a professional landlord. So now that you've done your research, you understand the background of how it works. You want to move forward to understanding your property's value. You want to make sure you're not undercharging for your property. You understand what the value is for your property. You're not just going out there without accurate comparables. I'll give you an example. If you own a 5-bedroom detached property and you've done it up so well, you've put in brand new carpets, you've put nice ceiling spotlights everywhere, you've tried to make a cinema room out of there, you've put in a jacuzzi in the property. Well, you've just made it amazing that you could even use it as serviced apartments. Now, in the neighborhood, you found another 5-bedroom house, a bit run down, but that's the only 5-bedroom house you've managed to find in half-a-mile radius. Now, that 5-bedroom house is only renting for £1,250. So, does that mean that you rent your 5-bedroom, wonderfully, beautifully done, that you could even use it as a serviced apartment or serviced house? Would you rent that out for $1,250 just because you found that as a comparable? Well, no. Why would you want to do that? That property is run down, right? You want to understand what you have in the property, what you're providing. Property is a business, just like any other business where the property is your product and your tenant is your customer. So you want to understand what you're giving them and ask for what is fair. You don't want to use that as a comparable. So understand your property's value, understand what you're providing, and ask for premium rents accordingly. If a 5-bed is going for $1,250, look for a 3-bed and see The good standard ones, how much is one willing to pay? Look at a 1 mile radius, 2 mile radius. Look for the quality of property that you have and then charge. So just make sure you're not undercharging, you're understanding what kind of property you have, and just always make sure you're not undercharging for your property. The third thing you want to do is that once you've found your property, you've found a tenant, you've done your background checks, and you're content that you're making the right decision by handing over the keys to your property to this specific tenant. You are confident that they will look after your property and they will maintain it well as much as it deserves to, because you've put in your hard-earned money and effort into getting this property. So once you've done that and you found that person, you want to make your rules very clear. How many people are allowed to live in the property? That's an example. Perhaps it's a 1 bedroom flat. You don't want more than 2 people sharing that flat, because hey, if there's so many people going to be sharing a 1 bedroom flat, they're going to be damaging it. Let's say 3 or 4 people living in a 1 bedroom flat, the amount of times they'll be taking a shower and all that, it's just the wear and tear will be much quicker than it would have been if there was just one person living in there. So you want to be quite sure that you've laid down all your rules, whether that's allowing pets or not, whether that's allowing smoking in the property or not, whether that's allowing X number of people living in your property. All those rules, whatever you have, you want them to be quite well established to the tenant that, hey, these are my rules. You want to live here, please abide by them. Have them into your contract. Anything to do with the rubbish collection or causing noises to the neighbors, everything. Make your rules clear. It's your property. The fourth tip I have for you is that you want to have regular checkups. You want to be checking up on the tenant and the property, how well they're maintaining your property. And you know what? By doing that, they will also be quite conscious that, hey, there's someone who is going to be coming up and checking up on how we're looking after the property. Now, you want to allow them, or at least give them the right of quiet enjoyment in the property. They deserve that because they're paying you rent for it. So you want to be fair about that, but you also want to make it quite clear that, hey, I'm going to have, let's say, 2 or 3 amount of checkups in a year. This is when I'm going to be coming in. I'll give you a 24-hour notice, and I expect the property to be well maintained as per our terms and conditions. So do your regular checkups. Do not just leave it thinking, hey, I've got a tenant, they're going to be paying the rent on time. As long as the rent hits my account, there's nothing else I care about. Do not do that. Go for your regular checkups and make sure the property is being well maintained, because you know what? If they're not maintaining it and you spot it within the first 3 months, it's going to be much cheaper to maintain it and get it up and running rather than finding it out 6 months or 8 months later when the tenancy is coming to an end and now the place is a nightmare. You'd rather find out about it earlier. The fifth tip, which really should have been the first one in this video, is that you need to run a background check. Before you give the keys over to any person to look after your property or to rent your property from you, do a background check. It's not just for you, it's also for them. You want to help them in making a better decision that can they afford to commit to a lease that's worth X amount. So when we do our background check, we want to check how much savings they have. Have they been paying the rent previously on time? How much earnings do they have? Have they had any CCJs? All these things make quite a big difference to figuring out who you want to hand over your property to. Do you really want to give a property to someone whose salary, for example, is £1,000 a month and the rent is £1,800? Does it even make sense? It doesn't, right? But how are you going to know without doing a background check? You want to know that the person is making at least 2.5 times more than what your rent is. Whatever you're asking for, they're making 2.5 times more than that. You know what? If they're making more than 2.5 times, that's even better. If they're making 5 times more than what you're asking for, that's perfect. Because you know they can afford to commit themselves into this kind of agreement. That they will not be putting themselves in a difficult situation where they will not be able to put up or hold their or honor their word towards it. So doing that check helps you and helps them. You're helping them make a better decision. So make sure you do not skip that step. The sixth tip I would have, especially if you're a new landlord, is that get insurance. You cannot know how a tenant is going to turn out until you've handed over the keys and you've seen how they're living in the property. There's all these checks that you can do, but you can never be 100% certain. No one can tell the future. Until you hand over the keys to them, they've lived in the property, you're inspecting it, that's how you will actually know what kind of person they are. how well they maintain your property. Are they clean? Are they not? That's when you'll know. So if you're getting insurance on the property, whether it's contents insurance or even rental insurance, it's always that peace of heart that your rent will come in. Even if the tenant's not going to pay the rent, you are insured by the third party, that whoever did your checks, that you are insured, that the rent will be paid. And even if they default, all the eviction costs and charges will be covered by the insurance company. So it's just a bit of piece of art that you can buy yourself, perhaps for 19 or 25 pound a month. So if you're a new landlord, that piece of art will let you sleep well at night. So it's something good that you should do for yourself. The seventh one and the most important tip, and the last one, is that have a contingency emergency fund for yourself. Set aside some money every month just for a rainy day. Because let's just take hypothetically, if your mortgage payments are £800 a month, your rent is £1,200 a month, your mortgage payments are £800 a month. What happens if the tenant falls ill, cannot make it to work, gets fired? How are you going to pay your mortgage payments? You don't want to get your property possessed taken by the banks. Or what happens if you're up north, the rent is £350 and the boiler breaks down and you need to put in a new boiler that costs £1,500 for labor, supply and fit? Where's the money going to come from? So always save for a rainy day. Whatever rent comes in, try save 10 or 15% towards the contingency fund. Sometimes, of course, it can be very tempting, especially if you've allowed that 10% to really build up over time. It would be tempting to use that money as a deposit and buy another property. No one's going to stop you to do that, but always have some contingency fund for a rainy day. You'll see a lot of investors now investing up north. The yields are perfect. It's amazing. 8, 9, 10, 11% cash and cash. It's really good. But then the expenses on it is also just as bad, because if your rent if you're making £350 for a 1-bedroom flat as rent, if the boiler breaks down, it's going to be quite expensive, isn't it? So you want to factor all these things in. Have a contingency fund, and that is very important for a landlord to have. Because the worst case scenario on this doesn't look good. Because if you don't have money and the boiler is broken down, or there's a leakage and the whole ceiling has fallen down from the first floor to the ground floor, you need money to repair that. But if you don't have any savings or contingencies for that, you'll be in trouble. Tenant won't pay you on time. Tenant will not pay you. If they don't pay you, how are you going to make your mortgage payments? And then things get quite ugly from there. So I hope these tips have been quite helpful for you. If you enjoy the content, please smash the like button. Please, if you've got any questions about them, please drop them in the comment section below. Any thoughts or opinions you have of what's very important for landlords to be wary of, please share them with me in the comment section below. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.